Well, students, we now start our discussion on Newton's laws of motion, and we start with the first law. Now, the first law is actually the quantitative analysis of Newton's law of motion. Now, the quantitative analysis means it gives a quantification of the law. Say, for example, there are certain properties which we arrive at from the first law. So the first law gives us actually the idea of two basic things. One is an intrinsic property of matter. Now this intrinsic property of matter, what we call is inertia, and this inertia is again measured by mass. So this is the first thing that we have from first law. We have an intrinsic property of a body, and that is measured by inertia, which in turn is measured by mass. Now this inertia again is of three types. So we have inertia again of three types. We'll come to that in the next page. So we have inertia, and inertia is of three types. So what we have is inertia, and then we say that inertia is of rest, inertia is of motion, and inertia is of direction. Now the inertia of direction is what we are going to discuss now. Now inertia of rest and inertia of motion, you might have very many examples in your book. They are quite ample, but inertia of direction is one thing which is very important for us to understand. Say when you are cycling over a muddy ground, you will find that the mud coming up in a direction like this. So these directions, what we are drawing actually here, are the directions of the mud that we find to be coming out from the cycle rim. In fact, that is the reason why we require a mud guard here. Now, this is again an example of inertia of direction. So the particles are trying to move away from a straight line. So when Messi stands here and Neymar stands here, and Messi gives a pass to Neymar along a straight line, unless and until someone interprets in between, the body will move in a straight line. It will not go like that, like that, like that, and like that. So that is actually the sense of direction, that when Messi passes a ball to Neymar in a straight line, it travels in a straight line. It obliges us with the directional inertia. So you can have a grinding wheel, and you have a grinding stone, and we have a knife edge there. Then we'll find that in all directions the fire flings are moving around. So that is again an example of inertia of direction. So this is primarily what we have about inertia. Now we come to the next part, which is associated with the properties of law or properties of force, whatever you call, from the first law. So now what we have is a quantitative analysis of force. So regarding force, from first law, what we can say is primarily that the first law is there to overcome inertia. So that is primarily what we have from the first law, that it is a law which is required to overcome inertia. It can be of any kind of inertia. Now the second point which we have to discuss here is that the force must be an external force. An internal force can never and never create motion in any case. The third point is that the force should be unbalanced. And again, you see, the direction of motion of the body should be along the unbalanced force. So the motion of the body should be along the direction of the unbalanced force. Along unbalanced force. Now what we mean when we say that the motion of the body is along the unbalanced force, let us check out for that what we mean by it. Say, we mean to say here a situation like this, when I have a body like this placed on another surface. Say I have a force 10 Newton from here, and I have another force of 5 Newton from here. So I can see that the unbalanced force here stands as 10 minus 5, 5, and the direction of motion is along this. So this is the direction of the unbalanced force, along which the direction of motion takes place. So this is all we have for the first law right now. Thank you. For testing your understanding of this lesson and more videos, log on to www.tubelessons.net.